A lot of people think financial safety starts with making more money. And to be fair, more money does help. But sometimes the difference between feeling safe and feeling quietly stressed has less to do with your income than with something much less glamorous. How much room is left after a normal month touches your life? Because you can earn good money, pay your bills on time, save a little, and still feel one annoying surprise away from stress. A car repair, a travel month, a higher utility bill, a school expense, or a medical bill that is not catastrophic, just inconvenient. Even an extra $300 or $400 in the wrong month can be enough to expose how tight things really are. And if that sounds familiar, the problem may not be that you are irresponsible. It may be that you are watching the wrong number. In this video, we are going to make that number clearer. Not so you can obsess over one perfect formula, but so you can judge your financial safety by how much breathing room your month actually has, not just by how respectable your income looks on paper. Because a lot of people are not broke. They are just not as safe as they think. Most people use visible signals to decide whether they are doing okay financially. They look at income, whether the bills get paid, whether they are saving something, and whether they are avoiding obvious financial mistakes. And from a distance, that all sounds reasonable. If you earn decently, your life looks fairly organized, and nothing seems to be on fire. It is easy to assume you are in a safe position. But financial safety is not just about whether the machine runs in a normal month. It is about how it behaves when life stops being neat. That is where a lot of people get caught. Because normal life is not one clean line item repeated 12 times. It includes fluctuation, timing problems, seasonal costs, small disruptions, recurring costs that drift upward, and ordinary months that arrive a little heavier than expected. And if your finances have no room in them, every small wave starts to matter more than it should. That is the part many people miss. They think the danger is low income, when sometimes the real danger is low margin. The number that decides whether you are actually safe is not just your income. It is not even your savings balance by itself. It is your monthly margin. In plain English, that means what is left after your fixed costs and your normal life expenses have already had their turn. Not the fantasy month where nothing goes wrong and you suddenly become a monk. The real month, rent or mortgage. Utilities, food, transport, insurance, debt payments, subscriptions, basic family costs. The ordinary pattern of your life. What is left after that? That number tells you something your income cannot. It tells you how much friction your month can absorb before it starts pushing you around. And that matters because financial safety is not just about surviving. It is about how easily you can keep functioning when life becomes slightly inconvenient. A person with a high income and almost no monthly room can look strong from the outside and still be fragile in practice. A person with a more modest income but healthier margin may be much safer than they appear. That is the reframe. Safety is not only about how much comes in, it is also about how much is still standing after ordinary life has already been paid for. This is where the false safety comes in. Income is visible. Margin is quieter. Income is what people notice first. Margin is what decides whether your life stays calm when something shifts. And because income is more visible, people often overrate it. They say, I make good money. But good relative to what? Your city, your profession, your age? That may be interesting, but it does not answer the question that matters. The useful question is whether your current setup leaves you enough room to absorb normal disruption without immediately creating stress, delay, or damage. That is a very different standard. So let's make it practical. Imagine someone brings home $7,000 a month after tax. That sounds solid. On paper, they are doing well. But now look at the structure. Housing takes $2,600. Car payment, insurance, and transport take $900. Groceries and household costs take $1,000. Childcare takes another $1,000. Utilities and subscriptions take $400. Debt payments take $500. And a few lifestyle costs that feel normal absorb another $400. Now they are left with around $200, maybe $300 in a cleaner month. That person is not broke. But are they safe? Not really. $200 of margin on $7,000 of income is only about 3%. That means one ordinary inconvenience can wipe out the whole cushion. One repair, one travel month, one school cost, one insurance adjustment, or one forgotten annual expense that lands at the wrong time. That is weak safety, even with decent income. Now compare that with someone earning $4,500 a month after tax. Not flashy, not dramatic, just cleaner. Housing is better controlled. Transport is cheaper. There is no large finance lifestyle hanging off the month. Normal spending is tighter, not extreme, just cleaner. And after everything is paid, they regularly have 800 or 1,000 left. That person earns less, but their position may be stronger because the second person has something the first person does not, room. And room is what gives money its stabilizing power. Without room, income becomes performance. With room, income becomes resilience. The hidden cost of weak monthly margin is not just stress. Stress is only the surface symptom. The deeper cost is that your decisions get trapped. You invest less because there is no room. You delay repairs because there is no room. You avoid useful risks because there is no room. You cannot absorb a temporary income dip with confidence because there is no room. And you start treating small disruptions like major threats because inside your month, they are. That is why thin margin makes people feel financially older than they are. Everything starts to feel heavier, not because they are bad with money, but because the setup has become too tight to carry normal life gracefully. Here's another version of the same problem. Someone gets a raise. Objectively, that should improve safety, but instead of creating margin, the raise gets absorbed. Say the raise adds $600 a month after tax. Then rent goes up by $200, the car gets upgraded for another $200, delivery and convenience spending add $100, and a financed purchase adds another $100. The raise is gone, but the person still feels like they moved forward. Nothing looks outrageous. That is why it is dangerous. The person still feels responsible. They still earn more. They still look fine. But the raise did not buy safety. It bought optics. This is one reason higher income can create a false sense of security. It makes people feel safer before their monthly life has actually become safer. And this is also why savings alone can be misleading if you do not look at cash flow. Imagine someone has a decent emergency fund. That is good. That matters. But if their monthly structure is so heavy that one rough season starts draining the reserve immediately, the emergency fund is doing patchwork on a weak setup. It is not solving the design problem. That does not mean emergency funds are useless. It just means reserves and margin solve different things. Cash protects you from shocks. Margin reduces how often life becomes a shock in the first place. Both matter. But if you confuse them, you can feel safer than you really are. And this is where people often use the wrong rule. They think, as long as I am saving something, I'm probably okay. Maybe. But saving a little while leaving yourself chronically tight is not the same as being stable. Or they think, as long as I can technically cover my bills, I'm fine. That is a low bar. A financially safe life is not one where every month technically clears. It is one where ordinary disruption does not instantly knock the whole month sideways. So what should you actually look at? Start with a simple question. After your normal month is paid for, how much money is left without pretending the month was unusually perfect? That is your first real clue. Then ask a second question. If this month became slightly more expensive in a very normal way, would your finances absorb it calmly, or would they immediately start stealing from savings, delaying other priorities, or creating stress? That is the real test. You do not need one magical percentage here because different lives need different levels of room. But as a practical anchor, 5% margin usually still feels tight, while 10 to 15% starts to feel like actual breathing room for many ordinary households. But the principle stays the same. If your monthly surplus is so thin that ordinary life keeps overwhelming it, your financial safety is weaker than your headline numbers suggest. And if your margin is healthy enough that normal disruptions stay normal, that is a much stronger sign of safety than income alone. So if you want a practical lens, stop asking only, how much do I make? Also ask, how much of life can my month absorb before it starts pushing me around? That question is usually more honest and more useful because once you see margin clearly, your decisions get clearer too. You can tell whether a new payment is affordable or just manageable looking. You can tell whether a raise improved your life or only upgraded your overhead. And you can tell whether your savings are supporting a strong setup or constantly rescuing a weak one. And there is an opportunity cost side to this too. If weak margin keeps you from investing even $500 a month, that is not just a tighter present. Over 10 years, that can mean tens of thousands of dollars that never got the chance to compound. A lot of people think financial safety is something you reach when your income hits a respectable number. But safety usually has a quieter shape than that. It looks like room. Room in the month, room for friction, room for bad timing, and room for normal life to be slightly annoying without becoming financially important. That is why the cash flow number that decides whether you are actually safe is not the number on your paycheck. It is the amount of breathing room left after your real life has already been paid for. Because a month can look good from the outside and still be fragile underneath. And once you see that clearly, you stop confusing income with safety. You start looking for margin. And that is usually where real financial stability begins. If you want, take a look at your month through that lens and see what number is really holding your life together. If you want more videos that make money decisions feel clearer and more realistic, subscribe. And if you want to learn a 4-step rule before investing, watch this video next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the path.